Beth A. Smith did an MA in contemplative psychotherapy in 2006, is a mindful awareness practitioner, meditator, psychotherapist, executive coach, corporate executive, and entrepreneur. Beth's intention is to live each day as the chance of a lifetime and to support others' intentions to live with more awareness. The title of this talk, this Spark Talk, is Being, Doing, Thinking, a model for change in humans, organizations, and the world. Please give your hands together, rather bring your hands together for Beth Smith.
Hi, everybody. Here we come. We're in the home stretch. You ready? Change. When is it ever time for change? Is it now? Is it later? Was it yesterday? Will it be tomorrow? Do we ever know? I think we're always changing, and I don't think we get to pick those. So it's always happening. So time for change is always. Change. What does that mean? It means to make different. That's the root essence of the whole idea around change. Now, I started my journey on change in the 90s. Well, I should say I was aware I was starting a journey of change in the 90s, and I was discovering things like Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, those kind of personal development kind of people. And those were impactful. I also worked for a really large organization that was going through a lot of change too, and that impacted me. That organization was outsourcing the type of work that me and my teams did, and at that time, in the 90s, they'd offered their first management buyout. But you see, I had it all figured out. I was gonna work for that company until I was 45 and retire, and then I wouldn't have to work again. That's not what happened. I ended up signing voluntarily that management reduction package and left a 13-year career. And that was the beginning of a big change journey. Fast forward into the 2000s, and I would be in a corporate environment again, and I would be hungry for change and inner growth, and I would go to George Washington University and get a master's degree in organizational and human development. And I loved what I was learning, bringing it back to work and helping people at work see how we could, from leadership models and change models, make things better. It was an exciting time. But I became aware at that time that the way things looked in the outside of my life, kind of almost perfect, you know, good job, make good money, owned a home, all those kinds of things, they didn't feel that good inside. So, eventually I discovered a meditation and mindful awareness teacher. And I would study with her for 6.5 years. And that change, to make different inside, that changed my life again. Well, there's more change to talk about. So I have this corporate job, and then I'm with this meditation teacher, and that opened a door to come to Naropa University for 3 years and be in the contemplative psychotherapy program. Change, learning how to help other people engage their change, their internal change, that changed me too. I'd set up private practice and work in public health and mental health, and then I would realize I really missed the action of the business world. So I would close my practice and I'd go back to the business world. I'd work for a small company that would go out of business. I'd get laid off twice. An important part of my story about change too, and this model I'll be sharing with you, happened working for 5 years in a technology company here locally. I'd never worked in technology. I started working with teams that worked with agile methods, software developers. And I fell in love with agile methods. So what we'll talk about in this change of being, doing, thinking is agile methods and mindfulness. Now, I'm not going to really have the time to give you everything about mindfulness or agile methods, but I'm going to give you a thumbnail sketch. What is agile methods? This is an iconic image here, the word agile with those circles swirling into a straight line. That's an iconic image. Agile methods came about for software developers because the world that they were in was extremely unpredictable. In the last 10 years, agile methods have become extremely popularized in software development groups because they had to figure out how to make things in a really unpredictable environment. Agile at its core means quick and well-coordinated. And unpredictable, doesn't that sound like your life? Doesn't that sound like my life that I was describing? Lots of unpredictability. Then we have mindful awareness, and of course you recognize this iconic picture that everyone would relate immediately to mindful awareness. Mindful awareness is in essence the ability to know what's going on. And in being able to know what's going on, we find a sense of groundedness that can help us in times of change. Now, both of these are umbrella terms. In agile methods, in the business world, you say agile methods, and there's all kinds of them. Same thing is true with mindful awareness. There's all types of practices and uses of mindful awareness. So we're using them as umbrella terms. There's a few things they share in common. They're all looking at iterative, incremental change. That's what they're looking at. Iterative and incremental, they're practices. We do them over and over and over again in order to get good at them. We also use them in precision. When we pick an agile method we're going to use or we're using mindfulness, that's what we're doing. We're not doing something else. It's a very focused, precise approach. And then they're also both very oriented to present time. They care most about what's happening currently and right now, and much less about what happened in the past and in the future. What's really important to know, both of these methods relate to failure in a way that's similar. Teams that use agile methods, they plan for failure. They understand, just like you and just like me, that failure is gonna happen. So they plan for it. They use the phrase, fail fast. If you know it's gonna happen, let's get it over with, right? Let's make it happen sooner rather than later. And in mindful awareness, there is no failure, right? Because our goal is our anchor. And when our mind does what it does and it wanders off, that's not failure. We get an opportunity to practice again. So let's look at being, doing, thinking. So those are actions. Let's look at the actors of being, doing, thinking and start to explore how this might be helpful from a change standpoint. Change you're going through in your personal life, change home, change at work, change in a larger world setting. I'm not going to give you deep descriptions of each of these, the beer, the doer, or the thinker, but my guess is you know what they are. So I'll tell you what I am, and then we'll figure out where you land. I'm a classic doer. I'm a doer off the charts. I know that because when it's stressful, I go right to doing, even if it's just like, let's clean the house, right? That's a doer. I also know I'm a classic doer because whether it was on the to-do list or not, if I did it, I write it down, and I get that little extra adrenaline flow when I check it off. Okay, how many doers? Your primary, that's your, like, raise your hand. That's where I go. I'm gonna get busy, I'm gonna do some stuff. Okay. Now before we go on, everybody has a primary, everybody has a secondary, and they have a tertiary. We're talking about your primary, the way you know yourself. Okay, you thinkers. Now, thinkers are the one when there's something to do or there's stress in the system or change to happen, they're gonna say, I better research this. Or I know somebody that did this before and I think I better go talk to them. Right? They're big picture thinkers, they're strategizers. Sounding familiar? How many thinkers do we have? Okay, good. Now, beers. There's a new term, right? We know doers and we know thinkers, but have you ever heard someone referred to as a beer? I don't know, not very frequently. Beers are those of us that can feel things. That's the first place we go to. Let me think here. How does this feel to me? How's this going to feel to other people? Do I know this from any other thing that's happened to me that I know I can feel it in my body? There are folks that can get in their body really quickly. How many of our beers do we have? Great. Okay. So you can see that it's important from a change standpoint. When change comes in, it's usually kind of rude and disruptive, unless you've planned it and it still doesn't turn out the way you wanted. It's good to know what your default setting is. Where are you going to go when you're uncomfortable? Being, doing, or thinking. Organizations have qualities like that too. If you think of organizations as entities, as bodies, organizations get identified that way as well, like organizations that are doers. We know them in industry, right? They produce products and services and they're cranking them out and they have KPIs and metrics and they know where everything is. Those are doers. Organizations that are more thinkers might be in different industries, that might be in research or education. They're going to think about things. And then those beers, we're seeing the being organizations start to come forward, like in conscious businesses, where being is what we care about most. If we start looking at the US, 323 plus million of us, think about the complexity when as a country, we need to engage change to make different. Think about it from the world, 7.8 billion of us, and we're all trying to figure out how to make different. That can be complex. So, there are three key things around being, doing, thinking to put your head around. They're pretty simple. Being is how we are together. Doing is how we do stuff together. So you can see that what this change model around being, doing, thinking is saying there's a lot of we. So remember when I said you're all three, beer, doer, and thinker? You have a we inside you. And you can use that as your change for yourself or in your family, your neighborhood, your team at work, your organization, or even in the world. So we'll look at them individually now, and we're going to pull from mindful awareness, and we'll pull from agile methods to see how those two might help us understand what these are. So being, how we are together. Those attitudinal and behavioral things that we engage when we have to do something together. Mindful awareness reminds us that one of the things that we do there is look inside. The reason we look inside is because we're looking for a way to remember what our intention is. Our intention is in there. But when we're focused out externally, sometimes we forget that. So in times of change, it can be really powerful to look inside and connect with your intention around the change that's either yours or imposed to you. Agile methods. One of the hallmarks of agile methods and agile teams are their self-organizing. What that means is they don't place value on hierarchy. They're going to organize as a team based on how they see fit. They're going to do an assessment and figure out who's on the team and what needs to be done and how they'll go about doing that without somebody telling them what to do. Think about that for your own personal change. What if you kind of had a meeting with yourself and you self-organized as a way to be with yourself? Next is doing. Doing is how we do stuff. So mindful awareness reminds us that we have an anchor, right? Those of us that are practitioners, we know we're coming back to the breath, our hands, feet, or seat. When change is happening, typically it can be, like I said, disrupting. So having an anchor to come back to creates a sense of container, which is really powerful around when lots of things are happening. Know that those things can happen and you can be anchored and have a sense of containment. Agile methods. Part of the method is, and the approach is, each day the team meets, and they meet every morning for a stand-up, and they're 10 minutes long. Everybody in the meeting, usually 5 to 10 people in a team, they answer 3 questions. each person on the team answers this question. They take a quick look back. What did I get done yesterday? They report what their focus is today. And they let the team know if there's anything that they have as an obstacle or that they'll need help with. This is a powerful way to be completely and fully transparent. It's authentic and it's hugely accountable when they're doing it every day. Remember, iterative and incrementally, they're trying to move something in a direction where it's very unpredictable. Thinking, how we think about stuff. Now, we're all human. I don't need to tell you that we're all thinking all the time. But what do we do when we need to think about stuff together and there's a change afoot or one that's already underway? Mindful awareness reminds us the most important thing to do is not discriminate against the thoughts. And we're allowing all thoughts. So we're not saying, well, we like this one, but not that one. And I find this one desirable, but this one's undesirable. So when change comes your way, mindful awareness reminds us that we should consider everything until those things start revealing themselves. And as you know in your own practice, they'll go away and they'll come back, and then a new one will come. Agile Methods does some key things around how we think together. And one method that they use is making thinking visible. And what that means is they're taking thoughts out of their head and they're actually putting them up on a wall. They use Kanban boards and throughput boards and journey mapping, and people stand at boards and scribble all over them. I have one at home. And this has been on my wall since I sent off, it says SparkTalks on it. You see it? It's kind of wrinkled because I had it in my pocket all day. And I can't wait to go home and put this on my wall in the done place. Because my thinking became visible and I helped make that happen. And of course, I was very honored to be chosen to be here today. Making your thinking visible just means sitting with someone and sketching something out and trying to figure something out, getting it out of your head. Okay, with the limited time we have, it's really important, okay, those are a lot of great concepts. What would I even do with that? Sir David Balesford came up with this 1% model that he used with the British cycling team. 1% was his idea about how to get them to gold medal winners. And now they've won many, where they were a fledgling cycling team prior. His thought was, if iteratively and incrementally 1% change would be improvement, that they could win. And it proved true. The mirror image of that is also true, where 1% decline over time actually catches a point where it pitches sharply down. Those are one of those, like we feel like the help call, like that's the all hands on deck. Culturally, we're drawn to that blue line in that chart. We would love some transformational change. And often we're trying to keep ourselves from getting into that help spot. But when we weave our beer, our doer, and our thinker together, and we allow them to work together, something different starts to happen. We start to have a sense of that everything's moving anyway. It's not a flat line until you're at the very end, and things are moving. But if you start putting the beer and the doer and thinker in you together, you might have a different outcome. Essentially, you're drawing a woven thread between the three, and we know those times when we're in a sense of flow, where we're not really thinking, but we are. We're really not doing, but we are. And we know ourselves because we're in our body and we're having that experience. Those are powerful moments. So by knowing now that you have a beer and a doer and a thinker, and if you can get them all to work together, could be helpful. I'll end on a personal note. This quote comes from Susan Edwards, and she is saying, change can take a lifetime. She was one of my teachers, an undergrad teacher here at the university, and she was my Thoreau teacher. She was trying to tell me something at one point, and I couldn't get it. Recently, I re-listened to that, and I figured it out, what she was trying to tell me. Did I change in that moment? Or was I changing all those moments that got me up to the moment when I was like, I think I know what she's saying? I hope I've given you some things to think about, some nuggets, and some things to come back home to when you're in a change and when you're on your journey for change. Thank you.